This is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and here we're going to be talking about functions. Now, functions are important in any programming language because you don't want to be typing out the same bundles of code over and over again, especially for things you know you're going to be doing over and over again. So it's called dry. Don't repeat yourself. Don't do it. Okay, make your life easier. It also means there's going to be less bugs in your code because the more you type something out, the more potential mistakes you can make. Okay, so the more you do this stuff, the better you get at it. But also, part of the art of programming is learning how to how to write less. Okay, and thinking in ways that help you write less. Cool. So, how do you define a function? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, you type in the word function, which basically means, hey, I'm making a function. Then you put in the name of your function. So we'll do a basic one first. So say hello, and then you have to put a parentheses, which represents any parameters that you may have. In this case, we're going to have no parameters. Now, what are parameters? It's basically stuff that whoever calls the function information they can toss at the function. And the function will take it and do stuff with it. But this function is not going to need any information, so they're going to be empty parentheses. And then anything in these curly brackets is the function. So anytime I call the say hello function, it's going to do whatever is in these curly brackets, which is just going to be to echo hello. Okay, and that's that. So now if I want to use this function going forward, instead of having to type in echo hello every single time, I can just say hello, which doesn't seem super efficient for something so small and simple, but I mean, you can imagine much more complicated functions. You're saving a lot of time by just doing that. Okay, now I'm saying hello 4 times. Hello, 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 hello. So cool, that's what functions do. And you have to put the parentheses when you call the function, because even though you have no parameters, it needs to know that you're attempting to call the function. If you put the function without the parentheses, it thinks you're calling on a variable and it gets confused. So don't confuse the thing. Okay, so what happens if we do have parameters? So let's say we create a different function called addNum, or addNums, meaning you're going to add numbers. And we're going to have 2 variables, variable A and variable B. And what this is going to do, it's going to basically, what happens is that you can have a function return a value. So instead of just having it print on the screen, like I just used, doing the echo thing, which really does nothing for me, it just puts it on the screen, which is great. But what if I need the number to do other stuff with? Okay, so let's say return A plus B. So I'm saying when you run this function, it's going to give you a number that's the result of the addition of A plus B. And you can do whatever you want with that number. You can print it on the screen, you can use it for other addition, whatever. Okay? So that's our function. It's just going to return me the sum of A and B. So now I can do something like this. So I'm going to echo the value of addNums 5, 5, which should be 5 plus 5 is going to return 10. But I'm going to add that value that it returns to the value of addNums 4, 4. So 4 plus 4 should be 8. So basically it's 10 plus 8. So it should print 18 on the screen because what it's doing, it's running this function first, which gives you the value of 10. Then it runs this function, which gets you the value of 8. And then it does 10 plus 8. And then it prints out that, which is 18. Ta-da. Okay, so you can do cool stuff with functions. And again, but the thing is that if the function returns no value, so basically, let's say I just did this, it just echoes A plus B, doesn't return it, then what's going to happen is just going to be confused because it gets nothing back, so it doesn't print nothing. It'll still print 10 and 8, but it won't do anything else. See, so it's printed 10, it printed 8, but since both functions return nothing, it just prints 0 because nothing came back. So you end up with that. So you got to think about what your functions are doing, but basically well-written functions can really help you save a lot of time. Think of what's going in and what's going out, and you will be better off for it. Now, while we're at it, we might as well talk about classes. So basically, this leads into what's called object-oriented programming, where basically you're looking at everything that you're doing in your program as objects. Okay, so for example, let's say we're creating a program where we're creating a dog. Well, actually, we'll just do a animal object. Okay, so an animal is a noun. So when you're defining an object, you're defining a noun. And what you're creating first is not you're not creating the object itself first. I'm not creating the animal first. I'm creating the idea of animal, and that's called a class. Okay, and the way I do that is I do class, say animal. Okay, and then anything in these curly brackets is the definition of my class. My class, the concept of animal can have different aspects to it. Animals do certain things, they verb. So those are going to be functions or methods of the class. An animal has certain characteristics. It looks a certain way, it feels a certain way. These are going to be the properties or variables of my animal class. Cool. Okay, so then I can declare my variables if I want to at the very beginning. So I can just be like, hey, you know what? And you have to declare whether it's public or private. Okay, public just means that I'm going to be able to access that variable from outside the class. Private would mean I can only access it in the class. So that means I would have to create some sort of function to go back and get that number if I want other people to be able to get to that number. Sometimes you may just have you want numbers that do stuff under the hood, but people can be like, hey, show me this number. You want it private. So it just depends on the situation. But we'll say public name. I'm just going to declare the variable and public age and leave it at that. So all animals have a name and an age. Now, the thing is that maybe we want to set that age at the point we create a new animal. But how does it know to give a name and give an age? Well, this is what you need constructors for. Constructors are a function that automatically gets called when you create the animal. It'll never get called again. You can't call it before and you can't call it after. It gets called one time when you create the instance of the class, meaning you create, so for every animal I create, the constructor function is going to run at creation. Okay? And it's a function. But the way you define it is you go public function 2 underscores construct, which is kind of weird, kind of like in Python where you have to do sort of underscore underscore init underscore underscore, which is annoying. I kind of like the convention in most other languages, which is you just do a function with the name of the class, but every language is different. And then just like any function, I can name parameters. So I'm going to say I want to define name. We're going to have a parameter called n and a parameter called a. So name and age. Cool. And what this is going to do is going to take these parameters from whoever creates the new animal and is going to assign them to our animal because it doesn't know that those parameters are supposed to be name and age. I got to tell it that. So I'm going to say, hey, you know what? My parameter of this. Now this represents the individual animal we created. So when we create an animal, that individual animal is this. And this has a variable called name, okay, which we declared earlier. Okay, and I want that to equal, okay, the value of n. Cool. And then I just do the same thing for age. So this age equals a. So it's going to take those two parameters, assign them to my internal properties, so that way those properties have those values. Neat. Okay, now every animal makes a sound. Okay, so in that case, we'll say sound. Well, it's a function, so I got to define it. So function sound, no parameters, and what's going to happen, it's going to echo animal makes sound. Or actually, let's do this. This one thing. Do 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 do. Okay, I'm going to say this name. So the name of this thing is going to show up first, and then we'll put space makes a sound. Okay, it's called string concatenation, where you're taking one string and you're adding it to another string, and it makes one big string. Cool. Okay, so let's see how this would work. So if I wanted to create a new animal, I would say, okay, Sparky equals a new animal. And again, my constructor takes, so it's going to call the constructor when I create that animal, but my constructor takes two parameters. So I got to put in the name, so Sparky, and I got to put in the age, which we'll say is 4. Cool. So now a new dog is going to exist. Now, what if I wanted to like show what, since these variables are public, I should be able to show them onto the screen. So I can be like echo Sparky. I want to go Sparky's name, and then we want to do the same thing with Sparky's age. So I'll just copy and paste that. So let's see if it works. Does Sparky exist? So let's run the code. PHP parser and syntax error expected in, that's line 26. Let's get over to line 26. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, I should probably put a $sign because it's a variable. Okay, otherwise that looks good. So let's run it again. Oh yeah, I need to put the $signs here now. This is why it's good to get in the habit of reading errors. The more you read errors, the quicker you fix errors. Cool. So again, Sparky gets created, then we echo the name, Sparky, and then we echo his age. So this, and again, I'm not calling the animal's age, I'm calling Sparky's age. So I created an instance called Sparky. If I created another dog, I could create as many of these animals as I want. Problem is, if I wanted to call the function, and Sparky wants to make a sound, I would do Sparky, should be Sparky dot sound. I run that. Uncat call to undefined function sound. It's defined. So where did I make a mistake? Oh, okay, so what I need to do, you call the function the same way you call the variables. It'll use the arrow, not the dot notation. So that should do it. Okay, PHP sparking a non-numeric value was encountered in line 18. Echo this name. Well, that's a string, so it should be able to concatenate. Numeric value encountered in home runner. Okay. Let's see here. We know that name, the name is string Sparky. Why is it not adding it? We will play with that later. But I want to get to the point. The point is we'll say animal makes a sound. Run that. And there we go. So it prints out Sparky. So again, print out Sparky's name, printed out the number, his age, and then the string. Ran the function, animal makes a sound. The problem is like Sparky's a dog, and it doesn't quite capture that. You know, dogs bark. But I don't have to retype this whole thing and all the constructor and all this stuff to make a separate class called dog. There's got to be a better way. So what I can do is I can create a new class, dog, but instead of retyping everything out, I'll just say it extends animal, meaning that basically we're going to take everything from animal and add to it. Okay, so this is what's called inheritance. So dog inherits all the functions and properties of animals. So I don't have to put all that stuff over again. But what I can do is I can change the sound function. I can override it. So function sound, and instead echo woof, woof. Okay, so now when I call Sparky, we're gonna make him a new dog, not a new animal. Same two parameters because the constructor is the same because we inherited that from animal. The only thing we did is we overrode sound. You can override functions, meaning you create a new version of the function. So since Sparky is a dog, when I call the sound function, it's going to call the one in dog because that supersedes the one that's an animal. And see, now Sparky says woof. Okay, so basically you can create sort of a class that allows you to sort of, that has a lot of the work already built, and then when you need to make more classes, you can inherit and minimize your code very efficiently. So between functions and classes, you could set up a lot of tools that'll make your programming going forward a lot easier. So it's just because you already have all the way things interact and what they can do, then it's just a matter of programming the logic of what happens in your program. So that's the basics of PHP. There's always a lot more to learn. My goal in these videos is not to sit there and make you an expert and learn every feature, every piece of the language, but to give you the foundational concepts in any programming language, so that way you can go forward and learn more about the language and work with it using something like a REPL to practice. So you guys have a great evening. Again, go check out all my other videos over there at alexmercedcoder.com. You realize that after you learn one or two languages or the basics, it's the same thing over and over again, just different syntax, slightly different rules, but for the most part, same game, same methodology, same design patterns, and it gets much easier to learn the next language. So I'll see you guys later on. Have a great day and enjoy.